Hi everyone, and welcome to StudioJake. I, of course, am your host, Jacob Airy. You can follow me on Twitter at RealJacobAiry. Before I get into today's topic on StudioJake, I just wanted to remind you to subscribe to this channel, click the like button for this video, leave me a comment, tell me what you think, and of course share it out. But don't forget to ring that little bell, because that little bell is what gets you notifications. YouTube is doing this weird thing in your subscription feed where they're curating it, so you may not see the video that you like, that you want as much, because of they're not doing it in chronological order anymore like they used to. So definitely ring that little bell. That way you get notifications whenever I do a live stream like this, or whenever I upload a video. So live radio today, lots to talk about. But I just wanted to talk about one thing. I know there's a bunch I can talk about, but I wanted to talk about, I'm wearing the Batman shirt. I want to talk about my favorite topic, which is Batman. Now, I am a Batman aficionado. I love the Batman mythology. I've been reading Batman comics since I was, maybe 6 years old. And now I'm 30, so 24 years of being a Batman fan. I've read everything you can get your hands on about Batman and so forth. So I wanted to talk about the Arkham Knight. So now I didn't have, oh, where did it go? Oh, here it is. All right, like I said, live radio. So this is actually a comic book based on Arkham Knight. It's a prequel called Batman Arkham Knight Genesis. Now, for those of you for those of you who are unfamiliar, in 2015, Rocksteady released the fourth installment of the Batman Arkham video game franchise, of course, called Batman Arkham Knight. Now, just to warn you, there are going to be some spoilers for the video game if you haven't played it yet, which it's 4 years old. Tough, and also for the latest Detective Comics run. I'm going to be discussing both of those. So they introduced this character, Arkham Knight, who is working with Scarecrow and Deathstroke to bring down Gotham City and overall Batman. And you find out in the video game at the very end that it's actually Jason Todd. Now, in this video game universe, he doesn't become the Red Hood, he becomes the Arkham Knight. Now, they do have a reference to the Red Hood in his final battle with Batman, but that's what it is. And the gist of it is, after an incident in Arkham, the Joker manages to kidnap Jason Todd. He tortures him for over a year until he basically brainwashes Jason Todd, and then sends a videotape to Batman where it looks like the Joker shoots him. So it's very different from the comic books, obviously. And then, but of course, he didn't actually kill Jason Todd. And then when Batman takes Tim Drake in as the new Robin, the Joker taunts Jason Todd with this, and that's kind of seen as the breaking point for Jason Todd. And then, of course, they have a lot of Arkham City references because Tim Drake is Robin during Arkham City, which is the third video game. Now, Paul Dini worked on Batman and Batman Arkham City, and Jeff Johns worked on Arkham Knight, two dynamite comic book writers. So this comic book, I brought it in just to kind of illustrate, make my points about it. This comic book is based on Arkham Knight. It's a collection run that they did called Genesis, and it expands on Joker kidnapping Jason Todd in this universe and what. Now, remember, this is different from DC Comics continuity. So it's actually really well written by Peter J. Tomasi, who's a fantastic comic book writer. So sometime later, they call Tomasi back. And the Arkham Knight was teased in Batman 1000, which I have a video and blog post about that. You could go see that. So they brought Tomasi back to do this run. It's a 5-part series, starting with Batman 1000, Batman Detective Comics 1000, with the Arkham Knight. Now, this introduces a whole new origin for the Arkham Knight. Now, when I heard that the Arkham Knight was coming to the mainstream DC Comics continuity, I wasn't really that surprised. They're kind of looking for new stuff. The the horrifying end to Heroes in Crisis, them continuing to give the White Knight universe lifeblood, even though it's terrible. And so they're trying to look for ways to interest the fans. So what they did was, though, was radically change the story. So I honestly was expecting them to kind of take the wow factor, because in the video game, it's kind of wow that Jason Todd is the Arkham Knight. You're just like, oh my gosh, it's Jason Todd. But so everyone knew this coming in to read this series. So they decided to take it a different path. And now in the mainstream comic book universe, a guy named Jeremiah Arkham is the director of Arkham Asylum. Now he is, I believe, the grandson or the grandnephew of the guy who founded Arkham Asylum, who actually went crazy and killed his mother and dressed in her clothes. It's a very psycho reference that they have, a big psycho attachment. So basically what it is Arkham, Dr. Arkham has a secret daughter who whose mother was the inmate's favorite psychiatrist, and this included the Joker, Harley Quinn, Killer Croc, Poison Ivy, a whole host of Arkham inmates. They kind of liked her and saw her as a friend because she could actually connect with them, which was a little weird. And so she has the baby during an assault when there's a riot going on, and Poison Ivy actually delivers the baby. The Joker slaps the baby to get it to cry, and then she's killed because Batman is controlling the riot, and she gets killed because the bad guy picks up a batarang and throws it, and it hits her in the neck and it kills her. And so Dr. Jeremiah Arkham's daughter, she grows up and she becomes the Arkham Knight, and she kind of turns Arkham into this cult. And it's really they have some references to the video game, because one of the things is you fight Man-Bat, but instead of it being how it is in the video game, it's Francine Langstrom instead of Kirk Langstrom. Batman has to wrangle her, and what ends up happening, they have a lot of ads in these comics these days. So instead of a militia, which is what they are in the video game, are the Arkham Knight's men, they're just this cult of people who kind of worship the Arkham Knight. At one point in the game, he, because it's Jason Todd in the game, he tries to pit Batman's allies against him. It doesn't really work. In the comic book, she tries to do this with the female Arkham Knight tries to do this with Damian Wayne, Robin. And when she realizes she can't turn Damian, she just kind of lets him go. And so Damian is able to go right back to Batman and tell him that she's hiding in Arkham Asylum. And like I said, Tomasi is a fantastic writer. Obviously, he did a good job with this version of Arkham Knight. It's a prequel, Genesis, but I kind of felt like this one he was just kind of phoning it in. This version of Arkham Knight is by far way inferior to the Rocksteady video game. I mean, inferior, like you wouldn't believe. I don't even know why they had to make it 5 parts, because the middle 2 at least are just kind of fillers, and Batman has to confront the Arkham Knight and all this, and like I said, there's going to be some spoilers. So it turns out that her whole plot is she's going to build an artificial sun, and she's going to blind Gotham City. So Batman and Damian have a showdown with her and her men, and then they have like this kind of sword fight. Batman throws her into her projector and destroys it, and so she gets arrested, and then one of her cult followers actually helps her escape. So she'll be back. I don't understand this. Why did they create a whole new character with a whole different origin to bring in the Arkham Knight? And why Dr. Jeremiah's daughter? That makes no sense. This origin, it's brutal, it's painful, it's it shows. Oh, I like this. This is one of the covers when it was released as a series. I love it. It pays a lot of homage to the comic books. It's one of the most well-written. Here's Jason Todd as the Arkham Knight. It's one of the most well-written origins for a new take on a character I've ever read. And then in this Detective Comics series, they take everything, don't barely have any references to the video game, and in my humble opinion, makes it worse. Now, they got Tomasi, who did the series, to write it, and I honestly feel like they said, "Hey, we want a new take on the Arkham Knight. We want it to be a woman instead of Jason Todd." And so I honestly feel like Tomasi just kind of phoned it in. He was just like, okay, because the story is incredibly underwhelming. And now I get that the wow factor of the Arkham Knight being Jason Todd would have been taken away because of the video game. And so if they wanted to do like a new character or whatever, but they made such a big deal, they had to, or I should say, Tomasi had to do so many leaps in logic to connect the character to Arkham. It didn't make a lot of sense, and it was confusing, and a lot of this. This is my thing where when they want to do like these kind of diversity characters or rush characters, they want to just go. They do things, and you just want to go, why? So what? So what if that happened? Why? So what? Why? You just that's always their motivations are unclear, and it makes little to no sense at all. And when I first reviewed this, which again you can see my review for this graphic novel on my blog, I praised it because I'm like, oh, this is great. It's connected to the video game. So what? So how would I have fixed it? Because one of the things that us comic book fans get accused of when we challenge kind of these diversity rewrites and whatnot is, well, what would you have done differently? Well, I would have kept Arkham Knight originally as the Red Hood or Jason Todd but what I would have done is I would have made it where Batman isn't surprised by it. He knows it's Jason. There's this really great comic series that is the follow-up to Battle of the Cowl, where Jason Todd wears like a more superhero version of the Red Hood, and Dick Grayson at the time is Batman. Bruce Wayne is lost. He's been shoved to the past by Darkseid, so Dick Grayson is stepping in as Batman. And right away he goes, Jason? Like he knows right off the bat. And that's what I would have done for this. I would have done, because right now Red Hood, Jason Todd, he's abandoned the Outlaws team. He's on his own. He's got kind of like a hood-looking costume, and that's what I would have done for this. I would have kept the militia. I probably would have left Deathstroke out, because that was my one complaint about the game is you fight Deathstroke. He's in this tank thing, and you fight him while you're driving around the Batmobile, and you don't actually get to fight him. That was the one thing I did not like about the video game. I thought you should have been allowed to have like a fight with Deathstroke, but anyway. That just bar none, Batman Arkham Knight the game is superior to Detective Comics Medieval is what the storyline is called. And I think that this is a bad sign for DC Comics. I mean, we've seen Heroes in Crisis where they just shoved their hatred of Wally West in your face, and they just said, hey, we know better than you, F you fans. And now with the Arkham Knight, they're like, oh, well, you didn't like our diversity hires? Well, here, we're going to take a beloved video game character and ruin it and make it a blonde chick and whose origin makes no sense and just leaves a whole bunch more questions than answers. And I don't have if they had decided, hey, we wanted to do a different identity for Arkham Knight, I would have connected them to Jason Todd, not Dr. Jeremiah Arkham. Fans of the video games don't get Jeremiah Arkham. He's not a character in the video game. So if all you know is the Arkham Knight video games, that's not, and you've just become a fan because of the movies or because of this or whatever, they're not going to know. They're not going to get the reference. They're not going to understand. It made no sense. And that's what these DC Comics and even Marvel Comics, that's what they're going. They just make you go, why? Or so what? Or what difference does it make? you know, to pull a Hillary Clinton. But I'm really disappointed in it, especially it being the first run once we're past the Batman and Detective Comics 1000. I was really expecting a lot more, and I really am bummed out that they couldn't have done like a solid adaptation of the game. And like I said, they could have taken out some of the surprise. They could have done some rewrites of it to connect it more with comic book continuity. They could have done all that, but I really feel like they just phoned it in. They just said, they just told Peter Tomasi, hey man, we're going to do Arkham Knight. We want it to be a girl instead of Jason Todd. Have fun. And Peter Tomasi just went, okay. And so he just wrote it out. And like I said, it didn't need to be 5 issues. That quest wasn't that important. It wasn't that big of a deal. So yeah, that's I know this is kind of a bummer episode. Normally I like to talk about things I like, which I do like this. Like I said, go to my blog and read out. But as far as Batman Arkham Knights versus Detective Comics Arkham Knights, the video game wins in spades. And even this prequel comic book, which, like I said, goes into more detail over the Arkham Knight's origin. Has a good base of flashbacks for the Joker and Harley Quinn brainwashing Jason Todd, his connection to Deathstroke in the video game. All of that is well placed, well written, and well designed. Here, in my humble opinion, this is the origin for the Arkham Knight, not the Detective Comics version. So that's all the time I have for today. Thank you for listening. Once again, be sure to like this video, share it out, subscribe to my channel, ring that little bell so you get notifications. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at RealJacobAiry. Instagram is the same. Facebook is author Jacob Airy. You can find my political writings on thedailywire.com, where I'm also do some of their social media stuff. Get your copy of my novel, The Seven Royals, All Good Things. You can get on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, iTunes, and booklocker.com. Thank you, everyone, so much for watching. I look forward to next time where I'm sure I'm going to complain about something else that these comic book companies are doing. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time right here on Studio Jake.